This is another episode of the Flight Ringers podcast. I'm David King. That's Dan Spottswood.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
We are professional cartoonists, and we are Legion of Superheroes experts.
Today we're looking at Adventure Comics 247. I think we just picked this one at random, right? There's nothing particularly outstanding about this one, right? Otto Binder wrote it. Al Plastino penciled and inked it. Whitney Ellsworth and Jack Schiff, they're the editors, I guess. And Mort Weisinger, the story editor. Do you think Mort Weisinger, is he the true creator of the Legion? Do you think it was his idea?
I don't know.
Do you think he told these guys just do a story about kids from the future?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I guess I feel like that's kind of what you always hear is like he has like the whatever the log line or whatever is like, do me a story about this. But in this case, you called out Whitney Ellsworth and somebody else.
Right.
Jack Schiff.
Yep. He was the managing editor.
Yeah, I think maybe Jack Schiff just was all over. Maybe he doesn't really get too much credit. He was like the Batman editor or something, wasn't he? And then Whitney Ellsworth is the guy they always say moved to Hollywood and worked on the Superman TV show.
Didn't Weisinger do that too?
Could be. He stayed on the comics, though. Ellsworth, I think, was exclusively... He like lived in Los Angeles.
I think I read that Weisinger stepped down and went to Hollywood. When he came back is when he took over all these super books. Like he was doing... I don't know if he was doing super books or not beforehand. He was apparently... According to him, who knows what's true, but he at least co-created Aquaman and Green Arrow and several earlier guys.
I mean, that kind of makes sense. Like this issue of Adventure, it has Superboy, Aquaman, and Green Arrow in it. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, if Mort Weisinger is the guiding light of Adventure Comics this period, he probably did come up with the idea of Legion of Superheroes.
He's a creator in the same sense that Stan Lee was. Like, he has a general idea. He tells these guys to make it happen. Only for some reason, he doesn't get all the credit, unlike Stan.
Yeah, he gets the credit for Aquaman for sure. I think he must have been writing Aquaman because it's always created by Weisinger and who is it? Martin O'Dell or somebody? I can't remember. Oh, Paul Norris.
In those cases, I think he might have actually been writing those stories.
Yeah, I think he's credited as writer, huh? So it might be a big question about who actually created Legion of Superheroes. And
right.
I think the credit always goes to Binder, and Plastino.
Yep.
But yeah, so much of this shit is guided by Weisinger for whatever that's worth.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to take credit away from those guys. I'm just wondering if a third name, if it's three people, did Weisinger set it all into motion. But I haven't seen anything with him bragging about creating them. Like he makes a point to like name all the things he came up with several times in the couple interviews I've seen with him.
And they're stupid things. The reprint annual,
right?
Red Kryptonite,
right? But maybe Legion is so low on the totem pole, he doesn't nobody knows what this is, so I'm not going to bring it up.
But they're huge. Adventure Comics is a huge seller back then, right? I think if you're a person who is like really trying to get make sure everyone knows your resume, and there's this comic that consistently sells whatever 500,000 comic books a month, like that's a concept that you would take credit for over like the initials LL in Superman, all those characters. That was my that's a stupid idea. Who gives a fuck?
But then there's like the Phantom Zone and General Zod.
Yeah.
I think those are pretty well-known things. Bizarro.
I think General Zod is kind of a non thing. Like I wouldn't have known who General Zod is if I hadn't
No,
watched
not
those
Non
Superman
was
movies.
one of his companions. Zod, Non, Ursa. Never mind. The three criminals.
But the shit that was like a runaway success in the 60s at the height of Mort Weisinger's career, he would probably take credit for that. And like you said, he didn't really.
The Superman stuff, yeah, but I don't see him bringing up the Legion very often.
Yeah. But to hear him tell it, every story was kind of his idea. He didn't want his writers to come to him with ideas. He would say, what did he say? Like, I didn't want them to have to rewrite a thing because I didn't like it if I give them the idea, right?
Like he was doing them a favor. Like he didn't want him to slave all weekend over an idea that he would think just sucks and come Monday. So he's going to make it easier for them by coming up with them for them.
Right, yeah.
Right. The other thing, though, about him not mentioning them, those interviews are from the very early 70s, probably. Like, the Legion became extremely popular for DC in the 70s. Like, it was one of their better sellers. But these interviews might have been before that happened. And then there's the whole, like, what is considered successful? Is it successful if it's on TV and everybody knows what it is? Who doesn't read comics? Is that the measure?
I think for today it is. Back then, when publishing was the thing, I'm sure the number of copies you sell in a month is the measure of popularity, especially in the comic book business where you couldn't expect something to turn into a TV show or a cartoon or whatever, right? So if you had a comic book that was selling 500,000 or 250,000 a week or a month or whatever, you might be able to say, yeah, that's a big success. And the other things got canceled if they weren't a success or something, or if they didn't sell those numbers. I don't know. It's a totally different world. I don't understand any of it.
Yeah, I don't even know if books got canceled back then. Did they? It seems like more often they just get repurposed.
Right. They rotate out the feature, right?
Right. It was like a real pain, I think, to like register or get the books accepted into the distribution. So it was easier, I think, just to keep the book but change out the characters. Or sometimes they'd even be able to change the name, but they'd keep the numbering because it was still like on paper the same publication.
Yeah, that's some kind of newsstand distro type of stuff, right? The Legion, these guys eventually took over a slot. Like in this issue, it's Superboy leads off, Aquaman, Green Arrow. Or actually, Green Arrow is second, and then Aquaman. But like the ones that we talk about all the time on our videos are quite often it's a Legion comic and then a Superboy comic, and that's the whole issue.
The books had shrunk by then.
But also at some point, Legion took over that other slot. It was Bizarro, and Legion took it over. And I don't know.
John Fort.
Yeah, John Fort did both of them.
John Fort and Jerry Siegel, I think.
But I'm not sure. I don't know what the decision was, or why the decision was made to go from Superboy and then Bizarro to Superboy and then Legion, and then to Legion followed by Superboy. It just makes me think Legion was pretty popular, I guess, if you're going to lead off your magazine that used to be Superboy magazine, the son of the big superhero, and turn that into the Legion of Superheroes, who today nobody knows who they are.
The son of the big superhero.
Yeah. Wouldn't you think Superboy is the son of Superman?
I think he is nowadays.
That's true.
The latest iteration is. Yeah, it's weird because a lot of things I read describe the Legion as an overnight success, but it was like a year and a half, 2 years, 20 issues before they showed up again, even the second time.
Right.
Seems like a long... I know comics have a kind of long lead time, but not 20 months.
in 20 months, your whole audience has changed. Like at
Right.
that period, like all those 8-year-olds are now 20 months older.
Right.
There's
Right.
new 8-year-olds reading these comic books. They don't know about the very first time. They, you know.
And that Bizarro feature, like that hadn't even started at this point. So even after they'd shown up, they decided to try Bizarro first before they, resorted to the Legion.
Yeah.
So I don't know, were they really popular out of the box, or was it after? Because they showed up like, I don't know what, a dozen times before issue 300. Like, did they kind of slowly build in popularity?
For me, I feel like the kind of tease aspect where
Mm-hmm.
there'll be a 12 pager and it hints at this world where there's a bunch of other superheroes, and you'll see a different one every time, plus the first three you saw a long time ago. That makes it more interesting. Like maybe as a kid when you read this, you don't know that, like you don't totally put two and two together that there actually nothing else exists behind the
Mm-hmm.
scenes for this
Right.
world. And you read it and you're like, geez, I bet Cosmic Boy is doing something cool when I don't see him.
Right.
And
Like you feel like they're holding back stuff that you want to discover, but in reality, they haven't come up with it yet.
right. Yeah, they hint at and tease a whole big world out there,
Right.
and they just give it out in drips and drabs. And then when eventually they must get enough mail into them requesting the whole kit and caboodle of this stuff, and they go for it, I guess.
It is curious. Like, I don't think with this first appearance they intended to use them again, or they probably wouldn't have written them so unflatteringly. Like, they're douchebags. They're jerks.
They suck. Yeah, they're
Yes.
not that cool at all.
Like, maybe they had some inkling that they might reuse them because they kind of like bend over backwards to kind of like not really redeem them, but like Superboy's okay with them being douches at the end. Like, oh, we were just kidding. It's all good. Like, the real ending seems like it should have been like, well, I don't need to be in your club. You guys are snots or something, or he somehow rubs it in their face,
Yeah.
The way it's written, the end is just like the moral is if people make fun of you, just suck it up, and then maybe they'll feel sorry for you if you start crying.
Yeah. Maybe we should go through the comic and explain what the plot is exactly. I guess I pulled out all these other copies. This is naturally it's reprinted in the Legion of Superheroes archive.
I have that.
This thing came out not long ago. This is a paperback version, I think, basically, of the Legion of Superheroes archive, volume 1. This was published in, it doesn't say what year this came out. It had to have been.
It came out shortly after the omnibus.
Yeah, it's like 2018 or something, right?
Yeah.
This says 15. I think I paid $10 for this. I see it relatively cheap all the time.
Yeah, I kind of like it better than the omnibus.
It has this nice cover by Doc Shaner.
The paper on the inside, while it isn't newsprint and it is bright white, it's more of a matte than what is in the omnibus pages are shinier.
Oh, the omnibus? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the first omnibus.
It's the same paper.
Yeah, it's a little bit slicker in the archives.
Yeah, it's really slick in the archives.
Yeah. And then other notable reprints, there's Silver Age Classics. This is from...
It's weird how dark his helmet is on that one.
Yeah, this is from 1992. And then Millennium Edition. I think it's from 2000. Yep, 2000. And then this is my personal copy of Adventure Comics 247. Wow. I bought it for 50 cents last year.
Way too valuable to open, though, right? Can't use that one.
No, I'm not going to open this one. No. I'm not going to get it slabbed.
This old thing?
just a piece of shit. Whatever.
Yeah.
The one thing about the reprints, the one you want to get, I think is probably the Millennium. It's probably accessible. It probably costs you cover price or less than $5. It uses the actual original cover artwork on the cover. All the others use this awful piece of shit, some kind of redrawn, I don't know what. Like I was trying to investigate this, and they reprinted this comic in one of those digests. I should have pulled it out. I forgot. One of the Adventure Comics digests from like early 80s. And I think it was for that it was kind of traced over.
Oh, because maybe the line work was too small and not legible enough, and they wanted thicker lines on it.
I don't know, but it's been showing up ever since, and it looks awful. Like it's what's on the DC Universe Infinite webcomics website.
Right.
It's in this reprint book. It's here, like, you know, like Lightning Lad looks like a dog or something. It looks so weird. And it's
in a real heavy shadow under his lip.
Yeah, and this Archives, it's in this, like this prestige thing. You paid $50 for this thing.
Right. And they kind of lose their rosy cheeks in the reprints too.
Oh yeah, the color's way off. Like this one is pretty true to the original deal. I mean, it's extremely true because I printed this. I copied this from a online scan of the original comic book. But yes. I don't know if you can really see it here, but like the face on Saturn Girl is totally weird.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of lines that disappear or that don't. Like the shading is like obviously by somebody besides Kurt Swan doing this. It's just awful. It's an embarrassment. And they keep using it in all the reprints.
Yeah. Cosmic Boy, though he doesn't look as good, I think he's the least diminished of the four. Superboy looks really dopey on the redone one.
Yeah.
Like his eye, especially. Like just totally changes the... like he's wide-eyed in the original version, and I don't know, something about the way they've inked it or retraced it. He looks like Jethro or something.
Yeah, once you take away like the sort of the mottled red on his face, it just looks really weird and wrong. And then he's redrawn very poorly. Yeah, like look at the difference between Saturn Girl.
Yeah.
So bad. And then, like the Lightning Lad face. Terrible.
Yeah, like the whole shape of his head changes.
Yeah, the Cosmic Boy is a little bit accurate to the original, but his hair looks really wrong.
Yeah.
But see, the reprint cover, it just looks terrible. It looks like a really bad drawing. I think if I was Kurt Swan and I saw this and it was credited to me, I'd be like, no, fuck that.
Luckily, it probably wasn't.
Yeah, luckily.
This is DC.
Credited to George Papp, maybe.
Right.
But so this is the one. This is like, it's not great either.
I shouldn't be surprised, but I was a little disappointed anyway, like when I Googled this issue, because I wanted to see if anyone had written anything interesting about it. And all I could see for miles and miles of swiping down was, key issue, worth point. Like, that's like the only real point of interest people seem to have.
Yeah.
In old comics now is like the value. I had to dig deep to find some blogs where people were actually talking about the story. Well, this is about maybe the only really valuable Legion issue, right? Like the only one that I can reasonably say I'll probably never be able to buy.
I would say this one and like the first three appearances, probably like the 247 and then Adventure 267.
Right.
And then Action 267.
Like this one's in the thousands. The others might be in the hundreds.
Yeah, this is probably a $10,000 comic book. Yeah, probably so. CGC graded copies
Mm-hmm.
have also changed that equation too, just for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And also, they're real old now. Like a comic from 1958? The hell? That's really old. That's 70 years old. So, I don't know. But yeah, it shouldn't cost as much. Hey, comic shop dealers, if you have Adventure Comics 247s, please mark them down. They're not worth that. Come on, give me a break.
Well, I'm hoping that the reason I wanted to cover this one was I was hoping it would be affected by the
Mm-hmm.
the what was it, the flight ringer effect. And that, of course, is whenever we cover a comic, it immediately drops in value, gets thrown into the quarter bins.
Yeah, it's like comic shop dealers like watching our video and they're like, "Oh, I still have 100 of these fucking Silver Age classics, Adventure Comics 247s." But I needed this reminder to unload those stupid
I
things.
need to get rid of these. Yeah, since we spend most of the time tearing these things apart, they're like, "Yeah, this thing really does suck. It's not worth this much."
Nobody wants them, huh? You're right. Like, I could tell you that in all of our videos, like 50 people watch them for 5 minutes a piece. They don't care. Hey, comic shop dealers.
You're missing out.
All those Baxter Legion comics. Here, there. That's thumbs down. Nobody wants them.
Yeah,
Put them in your bargain bins for 50 cents. Adventure Comics 300, it's only worth $20. I mean, it's only worth 25 cents. And another reason these all should be cheaper is because look at all these. Look, it's been reprinted everywhere. It's so easy to get. It's so common.
Mm-hmm. What about what can you tell me about the Adventure Comics font, David? Anything?
Ira Schnapp did that.
Oh, that's the guy who came up with it?
The famous DC letterer who did like all these balloons. Like, this is his distinct lettering style. Like all this stuff. This guy worked up until the 50s. Or up until maybe this late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm sure this is Ira Schnapp. Well, you know what I could... The comics part, this word...
That's like Action Comics.
Yeah, it's straight off of Action Comics, and which comes from More Fun Comics. I think they cribbed it even from even an earlier source.
That may be. I know in the earlier Adventure Comics, when they first adopted this this logo, the A used to be the Action Comics A, like the one that kind of goes off the edge of the page.
Okay.
Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think so. It's more. This one is kind of like a brush, like a sign painter brush.
Right. They swapped it out for one consistent with the rest of the logo. But when they first debuted this variation of the logo, it had an Action Comics A instead of the A that it has now.
I don't think I've ever noticed that.
Obviously pre-Legion. That's why you don't know.
I mean, I've seen some of those. I mean, I don't know why anybody would ever look at something that doesn't have a Legion superhero comic book in it, but that's almost the Action Comics logo. It's not like this kind of curly Q one. It's not even on there. When did they bring in the... Like, at first you said it was just the A, but it's actually the whole thing, right?
I guess so. I saw an example like that on a blog all about these titles, but that may have been like the blogger coming up with a hybrid. Maybe that doesn't look like it was ever officially used. But that original one, I think they had that almost all the way back to the beginning, but then it slowly started shrinking down and tilting in the same way that this one does, before it switched to the cursive. Yeah, I was asking because I was trying to figure out how to write in that style if I were to change it into something like flight.
Oh, this?
Right.
I don't know. It'd be too hard.
And I was doing miserably at it, so I was trying to find more samples in that style.
Oh. Well, yeah, the thing about these old logos is they're all done by hand to look
I
like
know.
some machined
Right.
type of thing. And it's just like that Irish Snap, he did like Natural History Museum, like some kind of shit where you hammer into limestone, like
Mm-hmm.
old fashioned Roman style carved letters. You know, like this guy, he wasn't just a comic book person. He was not an idiot. He was a smart person and
Right.
a person who knew his art, you know? Yeah, I don't know. It's
Mm.
not a typeface. A lot of people don't know the difference between stuff that was generated by the a human being or a mass produced type of typeface printing.
Right.
I can't even really explain the difference. It's hard. But like we can understand a sign painter painting a new sign versus shit printed by a printing press. And that's the difference
Right.
between the logos of an early comic book and the letters page or this type of
So
stuff,
even
you
though it
know?
has sort of a uniform mechanical quality, it is still a hand created,
Right.
uh, like early professional looking signs have that more polished mechanical look to them, more symmetrical, more uniform, but it's nevertheless done by hand in comic books.
And I mean, in everything up until a certain point.
Right.
Nowadays, I don't know.
At some point, when I kind of stopped following mainstream comics, I don't know how long this has been going on, but it seems like most of them don't have like these big masthead logos anymore. They have more like they're trying to look more like magazines,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Like very clearly computer fonts, very unremarkable. Like it doesn't stand out across the room. You
Yeah, it's
can't
like
tell.
they don't even have a logo.
But with these logos, and maybe it's because they're nowadays aiming at an older audience, but you didn't even need to know how to read to see that, like the Superman logo across the room. You know it says Superman by the shape of it. It's like it's got character of its own. Or the Spider-Man logo, like if you can't make out what it says or even know how to read, you know that says Spider-Man.
What's strange about Adventure Comics is that like this is Adventure 247. They're 250 issues into this comic book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing maybe it didn't start like number one. Maybe it was not Adventure Comics. I don't even know.
No, I think it might have been more fun.
Oh, really? That morphed into Adventure.
I think.
But today, the only thing anybody ever talks about Adventure Comics about is that it was the home of the Legion of Superheroes
Mm-hmm.
stories. Maybe Bizarro was in there, but they don't talk about Green Arrow and Aquaman being in it. They're their own thing now. They kind of like you talk about
Right.
Aquaman, you say, yeah, he's in Justice League. He's had a movie. He swims with the fishes.
Right.
He's Aquaman. You don't talk about his time in Adventure Comics. It's not notable that he was in Adventure
It's far
Comics.
enough back. People don't. Yeah. They graduated to their own books.
Right. It's a huge
Right.
part of like the Legion brand mythos. But then
Mm-hmm.
the shit that happens in the preceding 200 and some issues of Adventure Comics, I don't even know what's in there. What is in there? Superboy, I guess.
It was kind of a big deal in the Silver Age. Once you get past the more like just generic adventure stuff they'd have, when they started getting into superheroes, that was where like Our Man was, and I think maybe Sandman.
That's in the Golden Age period, right?
Right. The old gas mask wearing Sandman.
Okay. Oh, was Doctor Fate in Adventure Comics?
I don't think so. I thought maybe he was in the. I can't remember. Star Spangled. There was like two or three books like this,
Hmm.
and he was in. I think he was in the one with the Spectre. I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, they had All Star and Star Spangled.
Well, All Star was like the jam book. That
Right.
was the JSA book. It
Yeah,
was like
I don't think Dr. Fate was in that.
in JSA.
No,
Oh yeah.
in All Star as the Jam book. I think All Star was. I'm thinking back. I think All Star had Green Lantern, Flash, and Wonder Woman were an All Star.
Well, Wonder Woman first appeared in All Star. I remember that. The JSA showed up pretty early on, but I mean, it was just a framing device. They weren't like it would be a page of them all sitting at a table, and Green Lantern would be like, "Flash, did I tell you about the time I?" And then there'd be like 6 pages of a Green Lantern story.
It's like
And
Family
then,
Guy.
right. So it was just like a framing for, but it was like an anthology title that had all the individual members. It wasn't until like towards the end that they actually did something as a team, and only for a couple issues, I think. Not for very long. Alex Toth drew some of those towards the end.
Yeah, very primitive Toth.
Yeah, he was probably a kid.
So let's talk about what happens in Adventure 247. It's a Superboy story. It's not a Legion story.
We have another example of like a first page that almost functions like a cover. Like this could almost be the cover.
Yeah, they're not on the cover. Oh, I guess they are, huh?
They are on the cover.
It's a very
Yeah,
classic cover, isn't it? A lot of riffs
right.
on this cover throughout the years.
But yeah, like we're getting a glimpse of something happening mid-action before we go all the way back to the beginning, which is how a lot of these shorter stories open. I guess it's kind of analogous to like how like a TV show, like a drama or something, will show like an exciting part right before the credits roll.
Yeah, I mean that's a good way to get your story started. It's in media res, right? Like Indiana Jones movies do this, and everything does is like it gets
Right.
you start in the very exciting part, and then after that you can do some boring stuff once you've roped them in.
I guess maybe more often now it still manages to be linear. Like whatever they show before the credits leads into what happens in the story. But certainly in like the old days, like if you were to put on like the A-Team or something, they'd show you some glimpses of them blowing stuff up right before the credits, and then they go all the way back to the beginning.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which is more like what this is doing. Like we're seeing a big exciting moment. Actually, does this even happen in this story? I don't even think this scene happens in the story, does
I
it?
don't think so. I was just looking at it. I'm like, no, I don't think they do this. This is not in the comic.
Okay, forget everything I just said.
Well, the splash page shows Superboy experiencing these kids with superpowers. They only have one power apiece, and they're still saving the day. And they can do feats equal to those of Superboy. Yes. And they're named right here on the splash page, the Legion of Superheroes. These three guys, a whole legion.
Oh, right. They're naming one another. Yeah.
The magnetic eyes of Cosmic Boy, Lightning Boy. I don't know who this girl is. She doesn't say. It's Saturn Girl.
Does it not say?
We know from the cover. She has her little name.
Right.
The Saturn
Right.
Girl.
Oh, they don't have their names on their costumes on the cover.
Well, they don't need them. They have a name placard. Yeah, this first page here, this is kind of the classic. Clark Kent's walking down the street. And some son of a bitch. He's like, "Hey, Superboy, how you doing?" And look how smug he is. Like he has this body language of like the biggest red-haired asshole you've ever walked by. He's like,
It's like a wicked Archie Andrews.
yeah, but he's kind of got this kind of like loosey-goosey halfway, like, hey,
right.
And it really puts Superboy Clark Kent out of sorts. It throws him off to have this smug son of a bitch reveal your secret identities.
But maybe it was just a bad joke. He thinks maybe he's just being paranoid.
And the next kid down here addresses Superboy as saying, "Hi, Clark Kent." And
oh my gosh.
And he's just going to ignore him. I thought that was kind of funny where Superboy's like, He knows
Right.
it's me. I'm just going to pretend I didn't notice that, as if that's a real solution to somebody knowing your darkest secret.
Yeah, Cosmic Boy's kind of taking a chance there. I could see a 15-year-old just saying, incinerate him with his vision.
Mm-hmm.
No one would ever know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. He even points out that the red-haired guy in the first panel, he must be new in town. This new kid,
Hmm.
some other new kid in town. Maybe no one will ever meet him.
And then he encounters this young lady.
He says, "Great guns, a girl too. Does everyone know the truth now?" This really plays on the insecurities of every boy who has a secret
Right.
and just can't share it with the people of his small town. He's like, does that, like, oh shit, everybody knows that I'm whatever I am, right?
We've got to keep in mind that this is the late 50s. Times were different. If you encountered a girl in the park, you could exclaim "great guns" and there would be no trouble.
Well, back in the 50s, if you were a superhero, you had to keep it a secret. There were
Right.
there was laws against being a superhero. There was stigma against being a superhero. Like if you wanted to meet another superhero in town, it's not too easy. There's secretive, specific rules and places that other superheroes can go to.
They're very territorial about it too. Like this is Superboy's fictional city. So go find your own.
Yeah, yeah, they encroach on his town.
Right.
You would think that he would be more upset that there's these other guys. Once they reveal themselves, they undress and reveal themselves to him in the last two panels of this page.
It's another thing you can't do these days.
Yeah, they're like, hold on a second, and they're like, let me undo my tie and
like,
take off my jacket. These guys, they had to have been super uncomfortable in there.
Great guns.
Like all these pouchy costumes and all these layers.
I know.
This stuff was underneath a three-piece suit or whatever.
See, and this also makes me wonder, like, was the cover done before the interiors? Because these costumes all look really great. Like, I love these costumes on the cover. Like, they're maybe my favorite versions of all their costumes from the waist up. but then you see him here, and yeah, he's got these baggy green slacks on Lightning Boy, and that strange. I guess maybe it's not strange, but the way that Saturn Girl's dress kind of rides up above her belt.
Yeah, it's
I
really
think,
matronly.
right.
Anyway,
Does Lightning Boy's belt do that somewhere as well?
oh, like have a little overhang.
Yeah. Or did you draw it that way once?
No, I think maybe you're thinking of his next costume where he has shorts and they're really pouchy.
Okay, yeah.
It's like a diaper with a
right,
belt.
right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you have no idea what their costumes look like as far as their pants, huh?
Right.
Based on the cover.
I still think that Saturn Girl costume, if it was drawn right, could be a really great costume.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I think the names on their shirts are kind of dumb. Like you don't need that.
Yeah.
And he actually
Also
has
not on the cover.
For one panel, he has a big patch on his shoulder that says Superhero Club.
Mm-hmm.
They should always have that, you know. Be funny.
Maybe we should make some for the show.
Oh yeah, we should.
Superhero Club.
Some print on demand. They disintegrate if you wash them, but don't wash them. Time Bubble, first appearance here. That lasts all the way through.
And for quite a long time, they even stick with the numbers, the dates being used as a way of showing the passage of time. It just sort of becomes a shorthand. Like they're still doing that, I think, in the 80s. Some.
I wonder if it actually predates this story, like when Superman and Superboy would travel through time.
That would be my second question. Like, they probably aren't the first guys to ever do this.
Yeah.
They certainly used it quite a lot.
Yeah. So these three teens from the future, they tease Superboy And they hop in their time bubble and they take Superboy to the future to show him around and offer him entry into their superhero club.
And Smallville has become a super city.
But it's still small compared to all the other cities.
But it's still small, yeah.
This thing that says the Jules Verne is a spacecraft that
It is?
flies you. It's a satellite tour of Earth. It takes you around the world in 80 minutes, like the Jules Verne Around the World in 80 Days story. But I think you go into this and it takes off. It's kind of the idea, or kind of the
right
suggestion that it gave.
When I'm looking at it, I'm thinking like Epcot Center or something.
It does seem like
Right.
that, but
Were there things like that? I don't even know how old Epcot Center
Epcot
is.
Center came out in like the early 80s.
Sorry, man, I've never been to Disneyland.
No, I'm not trying.
Ville.
It's fine. A lot of people haven't been there. I get it. No, I don't think they envisioned this as a ride. I think this is a spacecraft. Because if it's a ride, it's very boring looking.
Just a blimp?
I guess it's just a ball. And they go to ice cream shop. They go see Superboy's house where his parents died.
Yeah, and they have huge buildings put up right next to it. Just like wedged in there.
Yeah, it's like they didn't preserve it that well.
It's like in shadow.
It's like the saddest monument, like a little tiny house. You know that there's some 30th century developers like, how do we get out of it, get rid of this?
Right.
This is valuable property with this stupid old-fashioned house on it, 1,000-year-old house on it.
Putting a gigantic industrial factory right, like a foot from his bedroom window.
It's a robot factory right next door to Superboy's house. I think you should just tear it down if it's sandwiched between a robot factory and whatever this like fucking Spacely Sprockets factory. Come on, just put it out of its misery. Just tear it down.
I've seen things like this in real life. I mean, they tore down a neighborhood in Kansas City to put up a parking lot, and one homeowner refused to take the money, and they were not forced to. So they just built the parking lot around the house. So their yard is preserved and fine, but there's just a huge parking lot all the way around it. It's still there.
I've seen other places like that too. Like there must have been a Tumblr or something that showed things like this. Like there's a house that's like you can see the highway going straight to the house and then splitting to go around the house. Things like that. Or like there's a really famous one in LA where I don't know if they're building like the freeway or they're building Dodger Stadium or something. And everything is gone and they've dug a pit. And there's one house that's on top of this like mound of dirt that's like got a 10-foot deep recession all the way around it or more.
Whoa.
It's pretty insane.
How did they get in and out of their house?
I think it's probably not all it's chalked up to be as like the holdout people who wouldn't sell or something. I think maybe it just got taken. Somebody took a picture of it before they got around to closing the deal or something. But it still is very insane. Like there's like nothing. It's just a dirt hole for like a whole mile around this house. It's pretty crazy, but I like it. I like that people will do that. Like they're
yeah, me too.
Iconoclasts.
They're like, fuck you guys, I win. I hated my neighbors anyway. Now I can play my music as loud as I want.
Now I can smell all the car exhaust from the highway that goes on both sides of my house 10 feet away. Right. They take Superboy to a school.
Yeah. Maybe the most bizarre scene in the whole story, because Superboy is so revered that they're teaching about him in history with a robot that isn't functioning properly. And he's like, oh, Superboy, since you're here, could you help me with the robot? Or
well, later it's revealed the robot costs millions of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Like every school has $1 million valuable dollar robot.
He's so revered they're teaching about him, but it's completely insignificant that the real Superboy is right there. It's like, could you fill in for the robot, real Superboy, since the robot isn't working?
Well, he does a good job.
Yeah.
Superboy says, "Gosh, I'm teaching history about myself," and it's also very convenient that they happen to show up on the day that they're teaching about Superboy, unless they teach about Superboy every day at school.
And maybe he's not surprised because people just travel through the time all the time. Like maybe Abraham Lincoln's walking around somewhere in that school. They need him to help with their robot. Abe Lincoln robot isn't working.
Mm-hmm. But now they take him to the superhero clubhouse.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of looks like a spaceship that's half buried in the ground.
Oh, my gosh. See, I said that because Superboy says that a lot. So it's rubbing off on me.
Uh-huh.
I just remembered that we skipped over just now the fact that they took him to school. As in, maybe they are in school. This is their school, their high school.
Oh, I guess I didn't think of that. I thought they were just showing them around, like they don't go to school.
That's how I used to read it too, but right here, that's nothing, Superboy. Come to school with us. That kind of sounds to me like they're taking him with them.
Oh, yeah. He's like, see what's taught in history class. Yeah, it does seem like he goes and spends the day at school with them. Yeah.
I think, there's not any other mention of them being in any school that I can think of except Legion Academy later on.
Yeah, I think they must have something where it says they get tutored or something, and they just do it at Legion headquarters. And then
Cosmic Boy, they kicked him out of school when he was 14.
Right. Well, he graduated.
Work in the mines.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It says after school, so they did a whole day at school.
Mm-hmm.
And Superboy just had to sit there and be like, I came to the future to go to a day of school. Give me a break. And like be myself. I had to teach a whole class about myself at school.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks a lot, Cosmic Boy.
Yeah.
But then after school is when the Legion of Superheroes meeting comes to order. And they propose that Superboy has to do some shit.
Right, some challenges. We have some other members who are not really revealed because they didn't exist yet. I read somewhere someone thought maybe that could be Triplicate Girl in the front because the way their hair is curling up on the sides.
I think even in the original printing, this guy isn't green. They colored him to be Brainiac 5. I think he's probably just a white kid.
Yeah, I don't like that personally.
Yeah.
I don't like revisionist history like that, but I mean, it's okay, but it depends on how far they take it. Like at some point, then it was decided that meant Supergirl must have joined before Superboy because she joined at the same time
as Brainiac
5.
You're right, yeah.
And then to me, that's like, okay, it's kind of cute that he's a nobody here, make him green. But now you're taking that and like changing the history. That's too much for me. Superboy was first, god damn it.
Right. It's just a comic book. You should really just relax.
Superboy's just always getting shit on. Kicked out of his own book and then killed.
He's Superboy. He is the son
Supergirl.
of Superman. He can have whatever he wants.
David. Pushing my buttons. He's not Superman's son. He's not Lex Luthor's clone. Don't give me that.
He's Superman's son. He is Supergirl's brother or husband. They can do whatever they want. They get whatever they want out of the world.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That was an imaginary story.
What, when he boned Supergirl?
Well, there is an issue pretty close to this one, which involves the Legion that gets a little creepy like that.
They, I think, try to draw a Super or a Saturn girl with kind of, like she has a sort of distinct like eye makeup or something. Like she has like sort of bedroom eyes.
I don't know. I always think she looks like Audrey Meadows in The Honeymooners. Like,
yeah, I can see that.
The wife.
Yeah, but if you compare Saturn Girl with, there's probably no other girls in this book. But the cover art, she has these kind of a squint or kind of a half mask kind of eyelid or
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they're trying to make her look foreign or something like that.
Oh.
I'm not sure, since she's from another planet.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I just keep seeing Alice.
Right, Alice Cramden.
Because her eyes were always kind of, she always had that put out expression on her face, so her eyes were kind of always narrowed.
Right, because Lightning Lad's always threatening to punch her.
Or accidentally gambling all the money away. Or right.
Uh-huh. Anyway, they're sending Superboy on some, like, he's competing against the Legionnaires as his.
So he thinks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she really looks like Alice Cramden in this panel, doesn't she? Yeah, Superboy's gonna have 3 trials competing against Cosmic Boy, Saturn Girl, Lightning Lad, and for each of the trials, he gets sidetracked by some other emergency, and then loses the competition. And this one, he has to, like, the robot goes crazy that he was just taking the place of this robot in school, and it didn't work, and now it's running away, and he has to stop it.
Right. It's gone nuts, and his solution is, of course, to burrow a hole that leads it right back to the teacher and the class, and just get the out of control nutty robot back in.
Well, this is a different
to the
professor.
classroom.
It's a different.
Oh, it's a different.
They colored him the same.
He's the.
This is the
repairman?
This is a science professor. The first guy was the history professor.
Oh.
So the science professor fixes him immediately as a demonstration for his class.
Okay.
He shoots a nuclear ray at the Superboy robot, causing him to short circuit.
So are you telling me that the man in the purple who's saying I just fixed him, but he just ran off, is the same man who stops him at the bottom, or a different guy on the same page?
I think this guy in the earlier panel,
yeah,
is the history professor.
Oh, you think it's the history professor?
Because he has this shirt that has like the Dickie or the
okay,
the formal.
Well,
shirt.
That makes a little more sense then, because otherwise it's like, why didn't he use that nuclear thing when he was running out on him?
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious what the original coloration was, because the teachers both are wearing a primarily purple outfit, and they have brown hair with gray temples.
Let me see. I can figure that out really fast.
But they're different guys.
Well, you know what? This doesn't answer anything. I was going to say he's wearing all purple, but there is a little bit of light green. So he could literally be either one of them. Let me see.
I think the history professor has like a round face, like he's a chubbier guy, and the science professor is a thinner guy.
He seems to have gray temples though too.
Yeah, well, he does. If you look back at page 4, he looks like Perry White. He has gray temples.
Right.
But then this history guy, the science professor, also has gray temples.
Yeah.
But one guy is fatter and one guy's thinner.
Right. So they're different guys.
Pretty sure it's 2 different guys. The teachers have to wear a school uniform for teachers. They're purple.
All clones.
That could be too, yeah. They're all bred in a lab. Anyway, this challenge is the statue of the unknown spaceman has sunk to the bottom of the ocean.
Oh, no. I'm kind of surprised that never got referenced again. Or maybe it has been. Seems like a perfect thing to bring up again.
It seems vaguely familiar, but I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah, the statue of the unknown spaceman ought to be right there in the
Weisinger Plaza.
Yeah, Avenue of the Superheroes. Yeah,
right.
And I don't know who he is or what the story is. That'd be kind of an interesting story. Superboy,
Indeed.
though, gets sidetracked with his robot shenanigans, fails to get the unknown spaceman statue off the bottom of the ocean.
Saturn Girl showing off a second power, even though they make a point of saying that they each have one power. I guess you can sort of stretch it, but so she can read minds, but she can also seemingly control at least animal minds.
I thought she communicated telepathically with the animal and told it what to do or asked it to do something. This giant deep sea lizard guy uses its tail to uproot the spaceman statue and get it off the bottom of the ocean.
I'm going to get kicked off the show for asking this question so late in the game, but can she talk? Can she communicate to people telepathically? I can only think of instances where she's reading minds.
No, she sends like messages out to people all the time.
She can send messages to other people? Yeah. Right.
This is the only time I've ever seen her be like Dr. Doolittle and talk to the animals.
Right.
Usually it is with people. Probably every time after this, it's with people and never again with an animal.
Right. Well, then I imagine like in newer Legion issues, she's probably written more like Jean Grey, like she's networking all the team together, like so they can all communicate telepathically.
I think so. Yeah, I think that takes a toll on her, but she can do it if it's an urgent necessity.
Right. Yeah, very Aquaman.
So Superboy fails this test, even though he has a very good excuse, but he won't
make excuses.
Yeah, he's not going to try to make an excuse for himself for being a total, utter failure.
He's got strong character. He's not going to make any excuses. No weak alibis. That's what Pa Kent would want him to do.
I think he could have said something.
No, I do too. I just feel like that's brought up 3 times here. Like maybe that, like the writers were like, this is the message we're sending to the kids. Don't complain, don't explain, you know? Like,
yeah.
Don't talk back to the boss.
I mean, the same thing happens again. Yeah, for all 3 of the challenges.
Right.
The whole idea that, like, okay, maybe it won't make a difference in them inducting you into their club, but I don't know, to not say that you had a extenuating circumstances. I don't know.
Right.
They're just going to think he's a loser, right? And the fact is that he's not a loser. He actually could have done that, but he was busy like stopping the fucking rampaging robot.
Right.
Or stopping the satellite from killing people.
Exactly. I mean, he should be saying, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm more powerful than all 3 you put together. You're just fucking with me. I'm going to go back to the 50s and make sure your time never existed. You guys are never born. I'm going to go find your great-great-great-grandmother.
And not have sex with her.
I didn't say that. Maybe just take her somewhere, throw her in the Phantom Zone.
Or he would have sex with her and use his sperm as a gun.
Oh, that one's all right, though. That can go.
Oh, yeah? Uh-huh.
Well, there's nothing sexist about that.
I mean, he might have done that to the grandfather, too.
Yeah. He's the man of tomorrow. He's very open-minded. Whatever it takes.
Whatever sex it takes to kill you.
Man. Yeah. Quite a superpower.
Something else. Exactly what Jor-El had in mind when he sent Superboy to Earth. Kill people with sex.
Do they set this forest fire?
Oh, the forest fire.
Right. Is this part of one of their pranks? Did Lightning Lad ignite it?
Yeah, I forgot about this. By the end, it turns out that all this stuff was a setup, right?
Right.
All the catastrophes that distract Superboy from competing successfully with the
Right. Like the
Legionnaires.
satellite
Right.
that
And the
he yanked
robot.
down.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I don't know about this forest fire.
I mean, it's probably the single most unrealistic panel in the whole story because the idea that there are any like trees in the 30th century, like there's any forest left to burn down.
Yeah, like this panel here in the middle. This is what the 30th century looks like. Just barren.
Right. Right.
Used to be a volcano here. There
Right.
used to be green grass here, but it's all just brown, dead,
Right.
barren earth.
It's like the Time Trapper's Realm in Volume 3, number 50. That's a closer.
Well, yeah, I was surprised when Superboy he's trying to stop the fuck. He's trying to stop an invisible eagle that has escaped from the interplanetary zoo. He goes
Very
out,
powerful, not very bright. It's like the.
but as a way to stop the invisible eagle that's going to go on a rampage and cause some
Right.
trouble because it's going to interrupt like space flight because people won't see him. This
Right.
invisible eagle. Superboy
He goes
goes
and
out,
just grabs an iceberg.
he finds the last freaking iceberg on Earth in the
Right.
30th century, and he brings it back, and it cools the air, so frost develops on the invisible eagle. And then
He likes doing things the hard way.
Then he tosses the iceberg back in the ocean, and then just with it doesn't even show him, but just with one line of text is like, "Then I will stop the eagle."
Mm-hmm. Well, this is comics code time. They probably didn't want to show how he stopped it.
By killing it.
Shattered it. It's
Yeah.
like turned to ice or something.
The challenge between Superboy and Lightning Lad was to help like some spaceship that was leaking fuel and needed to return to the dock or whatever. Superboy fails because he gets sidetracked by this invisible eagle bullshit. Lightning Lad uses his powers. He says his powers are one hand is positive and one hand is negative electricity. When he puts them together and claps his hand, it makes an electric display of some kind. But he somehow writes a message in space.
Mm-hmm.
It lasts for 10 seconds, and it's so bright it can be seen from millions of miles, this message. How strong must this electricity be that it's like 10 seconds from now, it's going to be so bright.
More importantly, wouldn't it be backwards? Would it be backwards to the guys flying the ships?
Oh, I bet he thought of that. You don't think he thought of that?
So his hands, they're like a positive. It's like the terminals on a battery.
Yeah. It's like when you take your jumper cables and you tap them together, they go psst, psst, right?
Much like the magnetic vision, I think this is better than what they do later, where he just shoots him out of his hands like every other lightning guy in comics. Like the idea of him having to clap him together seems way more interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since he's going to lose an arm later.
Oh, yeah. It'll be very difficult after that.
Maybe he just has to touch his foot.
I like the idea that to send out this message, he has to, he's like,
oh, you think he's like kind of doing a Morse code clap?
he would have to be, right?
Maybe. Every time he uses his power, though, in this issue, I think he claps.
You can't just do one letter with one clap, right? Because the letters are so different, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he does this to get different letter shapes. I don't know.
Does he have to keep clapping to keep it going? Like if he stops clapping, does it disappear?
It doesn't really say. It says the letters stay for 10 seconds.
What happens when he and his sister or brother high five?
Somebody dies.
If he grabs his dick, does his hair stand up? You know, like if you touch one of those balls with the electricity in it.
You think his balls have electricity in them?
I do. Maybe Saturn Girl's hair stands up.
What about when Lightning Lass touches his balls?
Ooh. I don't know.
Oh.
Maybe it's like too positive A positive to a positive and a negative to a negative.
Uh-huh.
Right? No, that's not analogous. I'm too tired. That doesn't work.
What about when you put a 9-volt battery on your tongue?
Or your balls. I
Stupid. What about your balls?
I've heard war stories. There are war stories.
What? This is some shit about when your dad was in Vietnam.
That would explain a lot, but no.
He put jumper cables on his nuts.
But I've heard such tales. But didn't they do that to John McCain?
Oh. Oh yeah, this is some Abu Ghraib type of shit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Superboy loses all 3 challenges.
This story is really long. Does it look like someone else drew him there on page 10? Bottom right.
Yeah, this one where he looks like Christopher Reeve from the Superman movie.
He's like suddenly looks very different. I like compared to the very next panel.
Yeah,
He's crying.
Kind of looks like the same guy, maybe. But this panel, like the tone of his acting is not quite right. Or he looks really kind of like he has some arrogance in this panel with his hand on his hip.
Exactly.
And he's like, no hard feelings. They're like, you're a loser. You suck. You're rejected. And he's like, all right, fine. No hard feelings. And then
I guess it kind of makes sense. Like he's putting on a brave face, I guess.
I guess so, but he looks like he really doesn't care, but we know he does because he's crying. He's doing this kind of comic book tears that's very white, thick, viscous tears.
They look okay on mine. Tears are very hard to do, it seems, without them looking horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this looks better to me than how, like, say, Keith Giffen did them in the 80s. Like, he has those, like, long, slimy ones.
This is just all white. Like, they should have... It's white. Tears aren't white.
What? They aren't? What color are they?
They're
comic book tears.
Transparent. You should probably just leave the color the same color as the rest of the skin behind the tears.
Yeah, but then it looks like you have, like, these weird wrinkles. No, I think I do that, actually.
I think I would
exactly what you're talking about.
Unless it's a close-up. Like, this is not close-up enough for it to really pull off that way. But
yeah.
It's just a thing that no one has figured out. This is a comic from 1958, and today is 2028, so it has been 70 years, and nobody knows how to do this yet.
Well, I like the big tears that kind of like sprout out the sides and go off the head.
Yeah, like anime or like manga. That's the way that's the best way to approach it.
Or when they just cock their head back and it's just a big, huge mouth with tears,
right?
Radiating from every direction.
Yeah, or like Mickey Mouse, where it's like a bunch of drips just coming straight up.
Right.
I think those are called ploods. Are they ploods?
Oh.
Or are they
Mort Walker here?
Yeah, they're either ploods or they're interrobangs or something.
Book around here somewhere.
You have that?
Yeah.
You know those are really valuable and you can't find a copy?
Are you serious?
Yes. Like I was trying to find one and like you can't find one. They're $100.
Oh shit. I don't really take good care of it. It looks like a coloring book or something. It's not super well produced and I just don't take perfect care of it. I let it lay around and stuff. I think maybe it's dog-eared now a little bit.
Yeah. Well, if the spine ever comes off, will you scan it all? Because I want to read what.
Surely it's online.
I had no luck in finding it. I mean, it's been a little while since I looked, but.
It's really dumb, but okay.
I mean, I have a feeling it's really dumb and stupid.
It's not like...
and there's some like excerpts. There's like, there's like one page of it that has like all the names for those stupid things. But I was like, I want to read the whole thing and see what this is like. But it wasn't able.
Yeah, I'll totally scan that for you. I mean, it's okay. It's entertaining, but it's not like some great... It's not Will Eisner's sequential drawing or... Like, it seems to get thrown up with all these great important books. I think maybe Scott McCloud mentioned it or something.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it just has Ploods and Emanata or whatever in there. I don't know what else.
Right.
Like he
Right.
names all that stupid stuff. It's kind of funny.
Who was it? Somebody really gets maybe I feel like it's Ivan. Like he's like, those aren't the real names.
Really?
Those don't count. I think it's him.
That's funny. They don't count.
I can't. Who else would have said that to me?
I don't know. But
That
like
it was someone. It was someone authoritative. So it was either like him or Chris Ware, and I can't imagine Chris Ware said that.
but I mean, those don't have a name other than
Right.
whatever Mort Walker gave to
Right.
them. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right. So these guys are bastards, and it's weird that they didn't get their comeuppance. I guess they kind of did.
Oh, the Legionnaires. Yeah, they really hurt his feelings and make him cry. And then he's gonna leave with his tail between his legs, and Saturn goes like, "Oh, hold it. We were just fucking with you."
And then he's like, "Oh, okay," instead of like, "You guys are really nasty. You're really nasty people. What is wrong with you?"
I mean, is he is he biting his tongue, or is he really this desperate for acceptance that you can do whatever you want? And they'd be like, "Nah, it's fucking with you." And he was like, "Oh, okay, I'll hang out with you guys."
I don't know, but he quickly goes home and shows off his little award and to his dad, and he's so excited and telling him what happened. John Kent's like, you get your ass back to the 30th century. You throw this at them and tell them you don't want to be in their stupid club.
Right.
Those kids are making fun of you, son.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we didn't explain that the Legionnaires first they reject him, make him cry, and they say, "Nah, come on back. We're just kidding around." And then they explain how all those things that sidetracked Superboy to make him fail at the challenges were actually set up by them to humiliate him and make him fail. And then he's like, "Oh, okay."
Apart from being mean, is like borderline sociopathic. Like someone could have gotten hurt or killed with some of these things they did.
Yeah, like you said, they set a freaking forest fire. But then on this last page, which is when I was reading this comic book, the last page, it seems like somebody's like, "Hey, Otto Binder, we need one more page of this comic book."
Right.
Turns out we're page short. Could you do one more page? And the last page is where they get an emergency alert, and Superboy goes out and does all this stuff. And I think this is meant to be Superboy finally getting to show up these Legionnaires, because he does this stupid thing where he uses a giant magnet to upright a building that's about to collapse, and he seeds some storm clouds to I don't know what the hell he's doing, like light up the sky with lightning so they can see. And then it's a real stretch at the end when he somehow tricks Saturn Girl into thinking that he's using telepathy when he's not, or whatever. And so, like, the idea is that he's used all three of the Legionnaires' powers to do a heroic feat in spite of them, I guess. And then he brags to his dad that he joined the superhero club in the future. It seems kind of tacked on, and doesn't.
Maybe Mort was like, you can't end it that way. He looks like a total rube.
Yeah.
Like a tool. Like these kids are pulling one over on him. They want him there so they can make fun of him, and he won't even know it. So you've got to figure out some way for him to save face.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you read it without that last sort of epilogue kind of page, they let him in. They induct Superboy into the team, but yeah, he's never done anything but fail and cry.
Right.
But then, yeah, somebody was like, Mort was like, "Hey, Otto, make him look cool for a second at the very least."
Yeah.
But they don't play up the fact that Superboy is gonna be like, I'm gonna show my true colors for a second to prove to these guys that I'm not just a wimp and a loser.
Right.
He just does this stuff, and they're like, "Oh, hey, what do you know? You kind of used our same powers."
Mm-hmm.
Superboy doesn't make a big thing of it. I mean, I guess that's his whole deal through the whole story. Is like he's not going to make a big thing of it. If they push him around, he's going to turn the other cheek. If they humiliate him, he's going to say okay. If they reject him, he's going to be like, "I'm fine."
Right.
If they make him cry, he's going to...
What does he say? Like, I'm a good sport, or that's the rationale. Like, they were testing to see if he was a good sport or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess maybe being a good sport just means taking it when people, like, bully you. Because you don't really hear anything about people talking about being a good sport anymore, at least not in the workplace and such.
Yeah.
Maybe like in a literal sport, you're having good sportsmanship. But
right, yeah. I remember as a kid, like going through like Cub Scouts and stuff, and I guess even in regular school, yeah, there was always the idea of being a good sport and sportsmanship. I don't ever remember it being like, oh, if somebody like whatever punches you in the face, you have to be like not
turn
saying
the other cheek.
Yeah, like you're a good sport if you say ouch if somebody hits you in the face maliciously.
Well, there's some reason why you couldn't get something done. You don't make an excuse. You just take it.
Yeah.
That's what this definition is. But yeah, what you're describing is like good sportsmanship is not turning the board upside down when you lose or something.
Right. Yeah, like when you lose a game, you don't want to say like, "Oh, I lost because you cheated," or "I lost because I didn't get a good night's sleep last night," or whatever. Like it's somebody else's problem and not taking responsibility for yourself.
Right.
But the Legionnaires give Superboy an award. She says, or a Saturn girl says it's our highest award, superhero number 1 award. Does that mean he's the leader? I don't know. It's like, that's not that great of an award if he's just back to...
You just mentioned that you think he pulled one over on them. Like they think he has 3 more powers than he doesn't?
No, that's not what I meant. I just meant that he kind of showed him up. Like all this time, he failed. Right. There was one mission with one objective, and somehow he managed to fail 2 times every time.
Okay.
And then at the end, he uses all their powers to solve on this one mission.
Okay. Yeah.
And
I just wanted to make sure I was reading it the right way. Like maybe I totally missed that.
No, I was just trying to say that like he does all that stuff, and it's not played up very prominently. Like they explain it at the end, and Saturn Girl's like, "Oh, it looks like you use magnetic powers and lightning powers and some telepathy powers.
Right.
You had your little joke with us." But yeah, Superboy he's not prideful at all about it, I guess, and he's a dude with a lot of humility.
Right. I feel like it's like they've just realized they've gone too far and they're going to get in some trouble. So they're like, "Oh, you got even with us with that. Oh, and here's a trophy."
Yeah, here's a trophy. Don't sue us.
You can be our friend. Don't bring your dad to the 30th century. Yell at us.
Yeah, the picture of Pa Kent here. He's so skeptical looking.
Yeah,
he's like, "Oh, an award, great."
It's like this Harry Truman head sitting on the desk in the corner.
Yeah. Well, and Clark Kent's like, "I'll still have my great reputation 1,000 years from now in 30th century Smallville." And Pa Kent's like, nice, congratulations. You know.
He's like, where did he really go? He was over at Lannis.
Right. Where he's like, how did I ever raise a son to be like this?
I could be ruling the world with this boy. But no, he wants to drink his milk and
right.
He's fair. You could go to Fort Knox for me, and I'd never have to worry about them repossessing the farm again.
No, he goes and gets a ribbon from the 30th century because he's
Right,
proud of his reputation.
right.
Okay. And the rest of this comic is there's a page of jokes. Did you read these jokes?
I missed them.
Let me
Were they good?
let me throw a couple of these jokes at you. Okay, here's a gag. Here's a joke.
Okay, I'm ready.
The teacher says, "Willie, can you give me the definition for the word indistinct?" Willie says, "Indistinct is where mom puts her dirty dishes."
Oh, I thought it was going to be something about stinking.
Nah, it's in the sink.
Like, where do you put your willy? In this.
Oh, whoa! Here's a joke.
Daffy Dan. Who are these characters?
Well, Daffy Dan is the famous boy who went into a gas station to get his elbow greased. In case you were curious who Daffy Dan is.
What about impotent hubby?
Impotent hubby says, "For Pete's sake, honey, we'll never get to see New York if you keep stopping to look at everything except my aroused penis."
I'm looking for some Viagra. Frank and Hank.
Frank says, "I heard you were just a yes man in your office." Hank says, "I am not. Every time the boss says no, I say no." I'm gonna have to find a chirping crickets sound effect for this
Right.
the video.
Right.
They're so terrible.
Yeah. What do you think about Little Pete?
I don't see where's Little Pete. Oh, this comic store. Oh.
Did you want to do some more jokes? I'm sorry.
I was still looking at the jokes.
Okay.
No, it's fine. Well, this is a funny one. Actually, before we get to Little Pete.
Actually, I like the son and absent-minded dad.
Yeah. It begins
That's
down
pretty
here.
good.
I didn't quite catch it. It says, "Overheard in a plane on a New York to Chicago flight."
That's good.
The son says, "Dad,
That's pretty good.
Dad, I've got nothing to do. I'm getting bored." And absent-minded dad says, "All right, why don't you go play outside?"
It's pretty good.
I wish-
It probably would have been even better if they didn't add the absent-minded part.
Yeah. "I wish
just
you were
dead.
dead. I hate my son."
Mort was like, put absent-minded in there.
You don't want to get canceled.
Mm.
I didn't read Little Pete.
Yeah, it's
It's wow. It takes
Ralph Stanley-ish.
takes a long time to get to that gag where he's having a hard time walking the dog, and then eventually he's on roller skates and the dog is just pulling him around. This is a Henry Bolton off DC Comics filler comic strip.
Well, it looks good. I don't know about the idea.
There's so many of these. Like if you start looking through Silver Age DC Comics, every issue has this stuff.
Is this guy reoccurring? Probably.
Little Pete, yeah, probably, but maybe not as often as like he did Cap's Hobby Hints and Honey in Hollywood or something. There's a lot of them.
What did he do outside of that?
Not much.
Just this kind of DC filler?
Yeah.
Like knockoff strips?
He must have had like a job doing like editorial cartooning or like just spot gag type of stuff here and there, but like I know him really just from doing one pager fill-ins. And Super Turtle, I think, was Henry Bolton off.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they always felt like these always feel like we can't license the real stuff. We're just gonna make like some kind of knockoff versions.
Yeah, like a Dennis the Menace or whatever.
Right. Looks like he got stuff in like Boy's Life though, and Collier's and the Saturday Evening Post.
Like his style, it's good.
He's
like
solid.
He's
solid.
These jokes, I mean, they're as terrible as anything else, you know. I like the way it looks. I really think he's a good,
Yeah.
whatever, draftsman, good cartoonist. Has a good style. The gags are, yeah, they're very pedestrian and whatever.
Well, right. Like they hadn't mastered like writing humor for kids. They're just you think about what passed for adult humor in the newspaper and then take that down a few more notches for the
Right.
kids.
Like this is a Marmaduke comic,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Like this is every
Yeah.
Marmaduke comic right here.
Mm-hmm.
It probably predates Marmaduke. I don't know when that finally showed up. It sucks. Marmaduke is stupid.
Not so great.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a Green Arrow comic strip in this issue. This reprint does a pretty good job. Like they've got the whole comic. At first, I thought this was just going to be the only the Legion issue,
Yeah.
but it's got the whole thing. It doesn't have the ads. Oh, here's Casey the cop. There's another Bolton off strip.
Oh yeah. I remember.
But yeah, this is a decent reprint. It's got a little bit of extra editorial stuff. Robert Greenberger wrote kind of an essay about the early days of Legion of Superheroes.
Any insights? Anything interesting?
I didn't read it. I don't know. That's it. Adventure Comics 247. It's reprinted a lot. Track it down.
Long live the Legion. We should mention how much it costs somewhere in here, but it's worth at least $50. I'm sure of that.
The best $50 comic book you'll ever buy.